In the blistering heart of the Zavo savanna, the wind carried dust, not life. Beneath a gnarled, dying acacia tree, a lion lay still. Django, once known for his strength and thunderous roar, now reduced to a shadow of his former glory. His ribs jutted like broken spears beneath his dull, dust-covered coat. Flies buzzed, but he didn't swat them away. For 7 days he had not hunted. Wounded antelope limped past, and still he did nothing. His eyes remained fixed on something unseen. Villagers from nearby settlements whispered about him. "He's cursed," said one. "A ghost in lion skin," said another. Children were warned not to venture near. Some said he was waiting for death, but rangers began calling him the starving ghost. But others saw something else. Footage captured by a drone operated by a local wildlife unit showed Django rising every evening only at sunset to face the same direction. He would stand, even on trembling legs, and stare toward a lone hill in the distance, silhouetted by the orange sun. He never roared, never moved beyond a few steps, just stared and waited. The video went viral online. The footage haunted viewers. What was he watching for? What had broken a king of the savannah so completely? No one knew. But the silence around him was not peace. It was grief. The footage circled online for days, but it wasn't until Ranger Daniel Moangi saw it firsthand that the weight of it hit him. From the passenger seat of his dusty Land Rover, he watched through binoculars as Django lay beneath the scorched acacia tree, still skeletal, silent. Daniel had seen lions in distress before, injured, trapped, dying of thirst, but never one who ignored prey, never one who turned away from life when it was within reach. He raised his camera, capturing a few frames, then lowered it, frowning. I couldn't understand it. He wasn't sick, he wasn't injured, his eyes were clear, but distant. It was like he was waiting, mourning, or remembering something. That night, Daniel reviewed field notes in his ranger tent, flipping past old files. One photo fell out: a small lion cub, drenched and shivering, cradled in Daniel's jacket during the floods of 6 years ago. He had pulled the cub from the rising waters when half of the southern sector was underwater. No mother in sight, alone, fighting to breathe. Daniel had kept the cub alive for weeks until the reserve ordered it transferred to a larger sanctuary. He stared at the photo now. The cub had the same eyes. No, not exactly the same, but close enough to stir something. He looked again toward the hill on the horizon, the one Django faced every sunset. What was up there? Or maybe the question was, who? In the nearby village of Cathari, unrest brewed like a summer storm. The fields were dry. The crops yellowed and curling at the edges. Goats had gone missing too, in a week, without a trace. And each night, the wind carried the distant scent of lion. Locals blamed one creature: Django. "He's cursed," muttered the shopkeeper. "He's not just starving, he's bringing death with him. He lies too close." Another said, "When he dies, the spirits will come." By the third night, the village council petitioned the park authorities, demanding the lion be put down before he died, to near their homes. They feared more than just claws, they feared an omen. At the park headquarters, Daniel Moangi stood his ground. "He's not attacking," Daniel argued. "He doesn't come close, he just watches. Give me more time, there's something off. He's not like the others." The officials frowned. Science demanded action. Risk mitigation. But then, in the village square, Mama Thandi spoke. Blind for 20 years. She sat wrapped in color-faded fabric, her weathered hands folded in her lap. "That lion," she said, her voice like dry wind, "remembers more than you think." Silence fell. Her words, simple and strange, rippled through the gathering like a dropped stone in still water. Daniel turned toward her. Slowly. Something about Django wasn't just wild. It was personal. 6 years ago, the southern plains of Zavo were drowning. Unrelenting rains had turned riverbeds into torrents, and fields into swamps. Wildlife fled higher ground, but not all made it. As Daniel navigated his patrol jeep through knee-high waters, a flash of golden fur caught his Aja cub, tangled in rusted barbed wire, its body slick with mud, too weak to cry. He slammed the brakes, heart racing. "Hold on, little one," he whispered, with careful hands and a steady blade. Daniel cut the wire, ignoring the gashes it left on his own arms. The cub collapsed into his jacket, shivering, ribs sharp, but alive. He named him Kito, precious in Swahili. For weeks, Kito slept in a crate beside Daniel's cot. Daniel fed him from a bottle, cleaned his wounds, even fashioned a toy out of knotted rope. But what stayed with him most was sunset, when Kito would quietly rise, pad to the tent opening, and sit beside Daniel, eyes always turned west, toward the horizon. "I used to joke he was waiting for someone," Daniel recalls, in voiceover, or maybe something. Eventually, the order came. Kito was transferred to a sanctuary down south. Daniel visited twice. Then the sanctuary closed during a funding collapse. Records were lost. The animals were scattered. Some rehomed, some not. He never found Kito again. Until now, as he watched Django, scarred, silent, and gazing west each evening, Daniel's breath caught. Could it really be Kito? Had the lion come back? The sky burned with the amber light of late afternoon as Daniel stepped out of his truck, alone, walking slowly across the cracked earth of the savannah. The dying acacia tree came into view under it. The emaciated lion still lay unmoving, a ghost of what he once was. Daniel's heart pounded. He stopped a safe distance away and took a deep breath. Then, gently, he called out, "Cato." The name floated through the wind, uncertain. No response. Again. Louder this time, "Cato." The lion's ears twitched. Then slowly, almost reluctantly, Django lifted his head. His eyes met Daniel's, not wild, not angry, but filled with a kind of distant recognition, a flicker, a memory. Daniel didn't move closer. He simply sat down on the earth, legs crossed, facing the same western hill, the way they used to. Silence stretched long. The wind rustled dry grass. The sun dipped lower. Then, with a grunt of effort, the lion rose, each step slow, bones visible beneath loose skin. Tension builds. The camera lingers on Daniel's face, calm but alert. Closer, closer. Then, just a few feet away, Django collapses, not in aggression, in trust. Eyes locked on Daniel, his breathing labored but peaceful. Daniel doesn't reach out. He simply says, voice trembling, "I knew it was you." And for the first time in weeks, Django closes his eyes, not in defeat, but in recognition. The days that followed blurred into golden dusk and quiet companionship. Every sunset, Daniel returned to the same spot near the dying acacia. Django, or perhaps still Cato, remained there, unmoving except for the slow rise and fall of his breath. He still refused food, even the fresh meat Daniel left each day. But he didn't walk away either. He just watched the horizon, and Daniel watched him. Neither spoke, neither needed to. Then, on the seventh day, Daniel brought something small in his pocket, a weathered tin whistle, scuffed and dented from years of field use. He hadn't touched it since the flood years ago. Kneeling near the tree, Daniel raised the whistle to his lips and played a soft, wavering tune. It was the same lullaby-like melody he used to play beside the cub's crate, hoping to calm him at night. At first, there was no reaction. Then Django's eyes blinked slowly, and his ears twitched. A moment passed. Then a low rumble filled the air, not a growl, not a threat, but a sound deep from the lion's chest, almost a purr. Daniel lowered the whistle, eyes filling. "You remember, don't you?" he whispered. And then, after weeks of silence, fear, and mystery, Daniel broke his body, shaking with tears, hands covering his face. This was no ghost, no cursed spirit. This was Kito. A bond, severed by time, now pulled gently back together by memory, music, and something stronger than instinct. Day 10. The sun rose soft and golden over the Zavo plains. A fellow ranger quietly placed a fresh antelope carcass near the tree. The team stood at a respectful distance, holding their breath. Daniel sat cross-legged beside it, close enough for the lion to hear, but far enough not to crowd him. He spoke gently, voice barely above the wind. "Eat, Cato, you're home now." For a long moment, Django didn't move. Then, with aching slowness, he rose to his feet. Every muscle seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, but his eyes had changed. There was life in them now, familiarity, trust. Step by step, he approached the carcass. Daniel didn't flinch. And then, he ate. Small bites at first, careful, then more. One ranger captured it all on video, a starving lion, choosing life. Choosing to eat because someone he remembered told him it was safe. The footage, posted hours later, spread like wildfire across the globe. A lion once called the starving ghost was now being called something else. The lion who remembered. 2 days after the miracle, Daniel submitted photographs and video stills to the Wildlife Identification Archive, a global database used to track animals through unique scar patterns and features. He didn't expect much, but then the results came in. The lion Daniel had rescued, raised, and lost had returned. The sanctuary he was sent to had shut down suddenly. The animals were dispersed, many unaccounted for. Somehow, over hundreds of kilometers of open terrain, through protected zones, villages, and threats. Cato had made it back. To the same hill. The same tree. To the only man he remembered as safe. Daniel stood at the edge of the grassland, watching Cato doze peacefully in the shade. A light breeze rippled the dry grass. He whispered. He found his way home by heart. And for the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel like just a ranger. He felt like a man who'd been waiting to. In the weeks that followed, Cato's strength returned. Slow, but steady. His ribs no longer jutted like bones of defeat. His golden coat began to shine again beneath the sun, and his eyes, once hollow, now tracked birds in the sky, and distant antelope, with calm curiosity. But Daniel knew the truth. Cato could not return to the wild. His years alone, the starvation, and the scars, physical and emotional, ran too deep. So, a new sanctuary was born. With the help of rangers, international donations, and a conservation nonprofit moved by Cato's story, a protected reserve was built just beyond the old acacia tree. Wide open land, medical facilities, and safety from poachers. A kingdom built not on fear, but But on healing. Daniel became its first director, no longer just a ranger. He now dedicated his life to rescuing big cats, the forgotten, the injured, the ones the wild had turned its back on. Kito was its first guardian. News outlets, influencers, and wildlife organizations shared the story across continents. The tale of a lion who remembered love and a man who never gave up sparked a global conversation about wildlife protection, memory, and redemption. Children wrote letters. Artists painted murals. Funds poured in. But for Daniel, none of that compared to the simple peace of each evening sitting near the sanctuary fence, as Cato once again faced the sunset, exactly as he had before. 1 year later, the savannah stretched wide and golden, bathed in the warm hush of twilight. Daniel sat on a familiar rock, boots dusty, hands resting on his knees. The sky ahead was ablaze, orange bleeding into rose, then indigo. It was the kind of sunset that made the land feel timeless. Beside him stood Cato. His mane was full and radiant, his frame strong once more. No longer the starving ghost, now he was a lion reborn. But he didn't pace or roar. He simply stood there, quietly, eyes fixed on the horizon, like he had done so many times before, just like the boy he once was, just like the man who had waited for him. Daniel didn't speak. He didn't need to. The moment said everything. The wind stirred the tall grass. Birds wheeled overhead, and for a while, it was just two souls, sharing the silence of everything they had endured, and everything they had found again. Some bonds survived time, silence, and even the wild. As the sun disappeared below the edge of the world, the screen slowly fades to black, soft music rising like the last breath of day.